All right, everybody, get ready because today we are diving deep into some pretty cool news in the film world. We're going to be talking about this new sci-fi film called The Traveler. It's actually based on a novel of the same name. And for this deep dive, we're using this article from Deadline Film Plus TV. They're saying it's like this crazy mix of a family drama and a huge sci-fi odyssey. So how do those two things even go together? I guess that's what we're here to find out.
Yeah, it really sounds like a very interesting combo. It's like you've got the personal family story, which everyone can relate to, and then on top of that, they're adding this huge concept of time travel. Like, whoa, the hard part is going to be to like make those things work together. But if they can pull it off, it's going to be something special.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Speaking of special, the director is Lee Isaac Chung. He did Minari, remember? Minari was nominated for an Oscar, and it did super well at the box office. Like over $370 million worldwide.
That's interesting. Chung is really good at telling stories, like subtle stories, especially like with families. Minari was such a great movie about being an immigrant. It makes you wonder what he's going to do with a sci-fi story like this one.
So what is the story about anyway? Well, the article says it's about this guy, Scott Treader. He's a 47-year-old biology technician. Sounds pretty normal so far, but then he starts experiencing these involuntary time jumps.
Involuntary time jumps. That's it's not your typical time travel. It's not like he's choosing to do it. It's just happening to him. Like, what is causing these jumps? Are they random? Or is there some kind of pattern? Maybe there's even a purpose behind them.
Yeah, and just imagine like the impact this would have on his life. You just never know when or where you're going to end up. That's got to be terrifying. The article doesn't really go into the specifics, but I bet the book really digs into what that would do to you mentally.
Yeah, you got to think about, like, how would you feel? Imagine being ripped from your family, your life, and then thrown into some completely different time. That's a lot to handle.
And then, like, what even happens to his body? Does he age normally? Can he control anything about these jumps?
So many questions. It seems like this story could go in a lot of different directions.
Okay, and here's something else. This story isn't exactly new. The Traveler has been around in Hollywood for a bit now. The script was written by Austin Everett, and his script made it onto some pretty big industry lists. The Blood List, the Hit List, and the Blacklist. Now, for those of us who don't know Hollywood, what do those lists even mean?
Basically, they're like the best of the best lists. But for screenplays that haven't been made yet, they're put together by people in the industry who are looking for cool new stories. Getting on one of these lists is a really big deal, and this guy Everett got on all three of them. That tells you something about how good this story is.
Wow, that's impressive. And get this. Back in 2019, MGM was interested in making The Traveler, so the story has really stuck around. Now it's Skydance that's going to make it.
Oh yeah, Skydance has a really good track record, especially with sci-fi and action, like Mission Impossible and Top Gun, Maverick. They know what they're doing, and they have the money to really make this time travel stuff look awesome.
And you know what else is interesting? The article makes it seem like the story becomes this huge journey. So it's not just little jumps through time. It sounds like Scott's journey could span all kinds of different periods in history, maybe even different realities.
Oh wow, that's really opening things up. So is this going to be a story just about Scott and what happens to him? Or is it going to be bigger than that and explore what time travel really means? Could it even be about alternate timelines or parallel universes? It seems like there are a lot of big ideas they could explore in this story.
It makes you think about how big this film is going to be. Is it going to be like a drama focused on the character and just use time travel as a backdrop? Or is it going to be this full-blown, crazy sci-fi adventure?
I think it could be both. Remember, at its heart, it's a family drama. So how do these time jumps affect Scott's family? Does he age differently than them? Will they even recognize him when he comes back?
Oh, yeah, that's what I really want to know. There's so much potential for heartbreak and drama here. You could have these giant cosmic events happening, and at the same time, you have this really personal story about this guy just trying to hold on to his family and who he is, even though he can't control what's happening to him.
Exactly. It's that mix of the personal stuff and the cosmic stuff that can make this movie so good.
And don't forget that Scott is a biology technician. Do you think that has something to do with the time jumps? Is there some technology involved? Or is it something more natural, like in his genes or something?
That's a really good question. The article doesn't really get into that. But it's totally possible that his job is connected to the time jump somehow. Maybe his work leads him to discover something that makes the time jumps happen. Or maybe something about his biology makes him able to time travel.
It would be really cool if they went in that direction. Like maybe knowing about biology helps him survive in different time periods.
Yeah, and then there's the question of how are they going to show these time jumps in the film? Will they be sudden and confusing? Or will they be more like a gradual dreamlike thing?
Hmm.
I'm curious to see how Skydance is going to do the special effects for this movie.
Yeah, and with their history of making those big action movies, I'm sure the effects are going to be really impressive. They could make it super realistic and make the time travel feel like it could actually happen. Or they could go for something more fantastical and trippy. Either way, I'm sure it's going to look amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And talking about making things look amazing,
Yeah.
I'm also interested in how they create the different worlds. Will they stick to real historical places? Or will they come up with alternate timelines and parallel universes?
That's where that whole huge sci-fi odyssey thing really comes in. If they show all kinds of different time periods and maybe even different realities, there's so much they could do with the world building. They could use real historical events, but with a sci-fi twist, or they could just make up completely new worlds.
Yeah, that would be awesome to see all these different worlds come to light. Will they be realistic and detailed? Or will they be more like stylized and abstract?
And how's Scott going to deal with all these different worlds? Will he just watch things happen, or will he try to change things, even if it means messing up the timeline more?
I think that's the main conflict. Like, we all want to control our own lives. But time travel is all about things being unpredictable. If Scott tries to interfere, will he be seen as a good guy or a bad guy?
And then how will his actions affect his own present and future? Can he go back to his old life? Or will he be changed forever by what he experiences in the past?
And that brings us back to the family stuff. If time traveling messes up Scott's relationships with his loved ones, how will he deal with that? That feeling of being lost? Will he be able to find a new place where he belongs? A new purpose? In a world that's always changing around him?
So many questions. It seems like The Traveler is going to be one of those movies that makes you think. And it sounds like it's going to be emotional, too.
Yeah, definitely. It's a movie that could appeal to a lot of different people, from the hardcore sci-fi fans to people who just love a good drama. And with Lee Isaac Chung directing it, we know it's going to be done well. He's going to explore those themes of family and identity and what we do when we're faced with the unknown.
The Traveler is definitely going on my watch list. But in the meantime, if I could time travel, I think I would be most afraid to land in the Middle Ages. Like, no antibiotics, not very clean. It just seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that's true. Without modern medicine, it would be really hard to survive back then. But imagine seeing all that history firsthand, like stuff we only read about in books.
That's a good point. It would be cool to experience history like that. But yeah, there are definitely some downsides too.
And it makes you think about, what if you accidentally change the past? That whole butterfly effect thing.
Oh yeah, the butterfly effect. You mean how even small things you do in the past could have huge consequences in the future?
Exactly. It's like this idea that pops up in a lot of time travel stories. It adds a lot of suspense. And it makes you think about right and wrong. Like, what if Scott accidentally changes the timeline without even knowing it?
That's scary. It's like they say, the only constant is change. But with time travel, those changes are like supercharged. Who knows what could happen?
I know, right? Time travel is such a great topic for stories because it lets us explore not just how time works, but also what it means to be human, our choices, our fears, our hopes, and how they all shape the world.
It makes you wonder what kind of guy Scott is. Is he reckless? Is he careful? Does he even believe in the butterfly effect, or is he just going to jump in and see what happens?
Yeah, I want to see how they handle that in the movie. Will he try to blend in and not change anything? Or will he try to fix things, even if it means making things worse?
So The Traveler sounds like it's going to be one of those movies that really makes you think. And it sounds like it's going to be really emotional, too. It's a film that I think a lot of different people could enjoy, but before it comes out, if you're really interested in this story, you should check out the book. It sounds like a really cool world to get lost in.
Yeah, I agree. And I bet we'll talk about The Traveler again when we get closer to the release date. It'll be interesting to see how the movie compares to the book and how they take such a complex story and put it on the big screen.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about with this one, and I'm already hooked. I can't wait to see how it all turns out.
Me too. The Traveler could be one of those movies that stays with you even after you've seen it. Especially with a director like Lee Isaac Chung. We know he's going to make it really meaningful.
Well, that's it for today's deep dive into The Traveler. This movie is going to be like a mix of a family drama and a huge time travel adventure. If you like sci-fi movies with a human touch, this one is definitely for you.
Yeah, it's a story about the choices we make, the relationships that shape us, and the mysteries of time itself. Who knows? Maybe it'll even make us think about our own place in the universe.
And that's what's so cool about these deep dives. We get to explore all these ideas and stories that really capture our imaginations. So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those time-traveling dreams alive.